resilience, supply chains for a changing world. In today's rapidly shifting global landscape marked by geopolitical tensions, environmental pressures, and evolving trade dynamics, supply chain resilience has never been more critical to economic stability. This session brings together industry leaders, supply chain partners, and policymakers to share practical strategies for strengthening resilience, driving sustainable growth, and securing long-term competitiveness in a volatile market. To lead and commence the discussion, I warmly welcome the moderator, Ms. Anjali Ravi Kumar, Chief Sustainability Officer, Eternal Limited, to the dais. We also request that the panel members, Sri Rohit Kansal, Ms. Linda Kromyong, Colonel Dr. Bharat Sharma, Mr. Shivaramakrishnan Sri Kumar, and Dr. Abhinav Mathur to join the moderator on the dais, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and wishing you all a warm welcome to this session. I think we could not be discussing this topic at a more appropriate time because the big question ever since I think COVID happened is once again, will our supply chains survive this geopolitical uncertainty? I think we are lucky and privileged to have with us an excellent panel to answer that very question. But to kick us off, really, I'm going to introduce Sri Rohit Kansal, who is the Additional Secretary, Ministry of Textiles. As a senior civil service officer and a public policy professional, he has held diverse and challenging public policy assignments in sectors such as clean energy, infrastructure, and international trade. He has been an emerging leader fellow of the Australia-India Institute under the India Leadership Initiative and has also served as Sherpa to the UN's high-level group on sustainable energy for all. In his current role at the Ministry of Textiles, he helps shape policies that affect millions of people across the textile supply chain. At a time when making our textile supply chains more sustainable and resilient is so important for a country like ours, his presence on this panel is truly valuable. So I'm going to ask Sri Kansal to please set the tone for this session with his keynote address.
Thank you very much. Distinguished delegates, colleagues, members of industry, development partners, participants in this 20th Global Sustainability Summit. Thank you for inviting me to this session on building resilience, supply chains for a changing world. I was here at the 19th edition of the same summit, and what a difference a year can make. The challenges that we are facing today are unique in nature. A mention was made about COVID, and it would perhaps not be too inappropriate to in many ways look at the disruption of supply chains akin to the challenges that we faced during that era. But what is it that we can do to address these challenges? And how can we build supply chains that are predictable, resilient, sustainable, and weather these kind of known and unknown shocks? As custodians of one of India's most significant and employment-intensive sectors, that is the textile sector, we are aware that our growth must not just be economically sustainable, but also environmentally sustainable, socially inclusive. And this balance is essential, not just to weather the shocks of the kind that we are seeing today, but also to ensure the long-term sustainability and health of not just our industries, but of our people and of our entire textile ecosystem. And what is most interesting and heartening to see today is that there is a growing alignment of purpose across government, industry, civil society, and international partners. The very presence of so many of you in this room together is perhaps a reflection and testament of that shared resolve. So what is resilience? True resilience comes when supply chains are sustainable, not just in the narrow sense of sustainability, but sustainable in the broadest sense. And this means not just resource efficiency, but also predictability, also sustainability over the long run. And for textiles, this implies diversing sourcing, strengthening logistic corridors, investing in warehousing, diversifying both your sources of supply and demand, deploying digitization and tracking, forecasting, because it is only when supply chains are transparent and adaptive that goods can move without risk or help mitigate risks and operations continue smoothly, even when we are faced with uncertain situations and unpredictable risks. So what are we working towards? Mitigating some of the supply chain risks. The Indian textile sector is a pillar of GDP. It is also a pillar of employment. So any shocks to the textile sector represent textile sector shocks, not just to GDP, but to employment as well. This is why we have chosen to position ourselves as a global hub for circular and sustainable textiles. And we are clear that this ambition must be rooted in a green, just, and inclusive growth. But we are not starting from zero. We have made bold climate and sustainability commitments, from the Paris Agreement to Mission Life to net zero targets. And the textile sector has an important role to play in all of this. At the Ministry of Textiles, we are very happy and proud that we are perhaps one of the leading line ministries, which started off with a small sustainability cell, which has now become a full-fledged division leading a sustainability alliance. And over the past few years, we have engaged in multiple alliances, multiple collaborations, many of them with you present in this room. We have launched products and projects across procurement, across recycling, across capacity building, creating stronger foundations for change. The global demand for circular and sustainable textiles is growing, and India is ready to lead in this direction. But this will require a deeper and stronger collaboration in knowledge, in techniques, and in investment. Across the country, the sparks of transformation are already visible. Surat's emission trading scheme cut industrial pollution by 24%. Tirupur recycles 96% of its wastewater, draws 2 gigawatt of energy from renewable sources. Panipat processes 3,000 tons of textile waste daily into value-added, often upcycled products. And these are not exceptions. These are templates. Our task now is to scale them, adapt them across geographies, and thereby embed sustainability in every part of the value chain. Our firm belief is that if there is a way out of the challenges that plague us of the uncertainties that plague the global supply chain, it is by obtaining competitive advantage through sustainability, through creating supply chains that are sustainable in the broadest sense. This is why our policy direction is firming up in this direction to create horizontal sustainability across the value chains. And our policy guidance is based on 5 core principles: a resource-efficient and circular economic system, cluster-based development, localized ecosystems, innovation and technology leadership, social equity and worker safety, international best practices, governance, accountability, and catalytic capital. We would like to define sustainability and sustainable value chains not as a compliance burden, not as something that we have to do which is exogenously defined for us, but something that we work with to complement our efforts in transitioning with access to green finance, digital tools, and sustainable markets. Our vision of sustainability in the textile sector shows that resilience can be built on 4 core pillars: product diversification, moving beyond traditional markets, moving beyond traditional segments, moving beyond traditional products into value-added niche products which are sustainable, reliable in the long run. We have the example of COVID, where at the height of the pandemic, when global supply chains were in disarray, India's textile sector transformed itself into the second largest manufacturer of PPE kits within just a few months. Alongside product diversification, we also need to look at market diversification. India has had a long history of supplying to a wide variety of markets, and we have had historically strong products and strong partners which have been well diversified. We have 13 FTAs across 40 countries, and while a significant part of our production goes into the US market, there is at least $29 to $30 billion of export output which goes into markets which are in Asia, Europe, Latin America, Central America, East Asia, etc., etc. In recent years, we have expanded significantly into Asia, Latin America, and Africa. Building resilience, especially at a period of like this, would also mean preventing the dangers that market concentration brings to us, preventing overdependence, whether it is on overdependence on concentrated geographies or whether it is overdependence on concentrated product lines, diversifying away from cotton, diversifying into synthetics, and diversifying from overdependence on a few geographies. The third pillar of our strategy is cultivating niche and creating global interdependencies. And for textiles, this has meant building brands for quality, reliability, and sustainable production. The Ministry of Textiles initiative in Kasturi Cotton, built on a blockchain platform, positioning India as a trusted source of responsibly grown, certified, and traceable cotton, is another example in this direction. Fourth, technology and transparency. The future of resilient textile value chains cannot be divorced from some of the technological interventions that are overtaking and storming the world today, whether it is digitization, whether it is artificial intelligence, or whether it is robotics. The future of resilient supply chains lies in digital adoption. I have mentioned elsewhere, and I have said that we should not look at adoption of technology as threat to any kind of employment, because in the large tent, which is the Indian textile sector, there is adequate room for everybody, and adoption of digital technologies will not just increase productivity, they will also help in making supply chains resilient, predictable, and adaptive to any kind of future shocks. traceability, artificial intelligence for demand forecasting, smart logistics for efficiency are reshaping global textiles. And while the large players in the Indian textile market are adapting, evolving to accept these changes, we are working closely to build the capacity of our textile clusters, our MSME clusters, to adapt and adopt to these changes. This will help Indian producers to not just supply faster, quicker, cut down times, but also assure global buyers of quality, ethical sourcing, strengthening our competitiveness. I think the broader lessons are clear. Resilience cannot be static. Resilience cannot be cannot be a knee-jerk response to any artificial shocks. Resilience must be a part of life. Resilience must be a continuous process, and we must continuously work towards it through diversification, differentiation, digitalization, with sustainability as a horizontal component, sustainability as its core. Resilience is not something that is not sustainable, which cannot endure. But when we embed sustainability across value chains, across horizontal value chains, how we source and produce to how we distribute and consume, we create systems that are adaptable, inclusive, built for shocks, and built for the long terms. The only message that I have is that resilience, adaptability, sustainability, and value chains cannot be divorced from each other. While in the light of the present situation, we need to be as resilient and adaptive as possible. But we should not look at adaptability, resilience, and sustainability as something which is a response to an exogenous shock. This must become a part of our planning, a part of our design, part of a process of a continuous adaptability. This is the way forward. By aligning growth with environmental responsibility, social equity, we strengthen our supply chains against future shocks while making them trusted, competitive, responsive, and adaptive. And this will require close collaborations between government, policy, and industry. Policy will drive the direction. Industry will drive innovation. I think platforms like these are relevant because they bring together thoughts, they bring together ideas, and they bring together a sharing that is essential for alignment as we move towards this shared journey. I am confident that we can together work and ensure that our supply chains are resilient, not just in the face of disruption, but resilient, sustainable, adaptable, by purpose, by design, adaptable, resilient for the future, to respond to any kinds of known unknowns, unknown unknowns, predictability, unpredictability. We said in Bharat Text 2025 that India is the only stable partner in an uncertain world, and I think that we have walked the talk, and India has the capacity to build into its 5 millennia-year-old history of textiles the adaptability which the world deeply craves for. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me this platform.
Thank you so much, sir. Your opening address hit on all the themes that I'm sure our panelists are going to elaborate on. Diversification, product and market, digitization, forecasting, logistics, the use of technology, of course, partnerships, green finance, and I was particularly appreciative of your reference to the role of livelihoods and protecting livelihoods. How I'm going to run this panel is that I'm going to actually ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves and answer one question that's common to them all, which is basically around how responsible sourcing, and I would say, I would demarcate between what we do for compliance and what we do proactively, voluntarily. So how can responsible sort of proactive action on sourcing and proactive supplier engagement enhance global supply chain resilience in the face of current geopolitical and environmental uncertainties. And if you look at the way the World Economic Forum runs its risk survey, and if you've seen those results, you'll see that in the short term, most business leaders believe that there are more political conflicts and social conflicts, but in the longer term, if you take a 10-year view, the risk table is dominated by environmental risks, including issues like biodiversity loss, etc. So, how do you, I think the core question for each of you to answer will be why must we invest today, given all that's happening around us, proactively in this field of sustainable supply chain? And to give you a minute to think as well, I'm just going to quickly introduce who I represent and who I am. I lead sustainability for Eternal Limited. Eternal Limited is one of India's new age technology companies, very much born in India, made in India, listed in India. And we're really truly grateful to this beautiful country for giving us that growth journey. Eternal represents at least, I'm hoping, 3 brands that you all use. Zomato, which is food delivery. Blinkit, which is quick commerce. District, which is everything going out and entertainment, including movie tickets, tickets to cricket games, as well as dining out experiences. And Hyperpure, which is a B2B restaurant supplies platform. All right, and for us, everything is supply chain because we're a very asset-light company dependent on millions of very, very small producers. So I'm going to start with Mr. Shivram Srikumar, who's the Global Vice President of Sustainability at SAP. Maybe you can kick us off to answer this question of why. Tell us a little bit about your work and why must we proactively think about supply chain engagement?
Thank you for the question. My name is Sri Kumar. I represent a company called SAP. Most of you know SAP as a technology company providing business solutions to customers and organizations around the globe. I lead sustainability for SAP and responsible for the Asia Pacific region. Trying to give our portfolio of solutions to customers. Well, today this topic is of utmost significance regarding the sustainability in supply chain. Very often, sustainability is linked to the concept of decarbonization, which we discussed at length yesterday. However, this part of the topic of sustainability of supply chain also deserves equal importance in the holistic view of sustainability. Rohit sir today in the morning speech highlighted some very, very important points, which I would like to recollect and repeat again. Digital adoption and traceability. Yeah. So this traceability is a very, very important topic which gathers attention because most of the organizations today has the challenge to really know where is my raw materials coming from? What is the source of my raw materials? Whether it is coming from ethical or sustainable standards, who are, how many tiers of suppliers am I working with, etc. Right? So it's very important today for all organizations representing here and everywhere else to adopt a digital technology, which again Rohit sir highlighted that digital adoption has to be considered as an equal important point, right? How can organizations adopt a technology to get to know this minute aspect of the raw material traceability origin, and use that information to help streamline their downstream business processes to ensure betterness of the organization. So this is, to me, the most important topic when it comes to responsible sourcing. Responsible sourcing also opens up the supplier to share with you real-time data. Today, if you see suppliers are a little bit hesitant to do that, yeah, but a responsible supply would open up that channel. It would open up a behavioral change in the organizations on how they interact with suppliers, making the whole ecosystem more, more transparent, thereby improving the overall sustainability health of the company and also improve their, business profile.
That clearly sends the message that technology can first help you sort out who your suppliers are, exactly what you are getting from where. That traceability question is the start of making a change and improving your sourcing practices. Ms. Linda, you're the president of Amphori. Could you shed a bit of light on who is Amphori? What does Amphori do, and how can Amphori help business, especially those looking to work proactively?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. Linda Kromjung, I'm president of Amphori. What Amphori does, we are a business association. We have 2,400 company members from 50 countries, and we facilitate their supply chain risk management with practical solutions. And those practical solutions meet the core of the legislation and the expectation that we currently have on both environment, social, as good governance. Just to name a few of our members, they are diverse, as Amphori is diverse. It's Walmart, Amazon, Aldi, Lidl, Ahold Delhaize, Woolworths, just to name a few of the 2,400. But let me first start with responsible sourcing and how that helps, and building long-term relationships, how that helps being more resilient. And I think it all starts with building relationships. That's what we do. That's what we do every day. That's what I do at home. That's what you do here in India. You build relationship because you want to know each other. And if you know each other better, you can identify, whether you want to be good friends, whether you want to partner with, whether there's opportunities. But if you also know each other better, you also know how to help each other progress. So building those long-term relationships has value in society, has value in our personal life, but also has value in business life. And if we build those long-term relationships between a buyer and a supplier, and I think coming back to what you said, that helps you to understand what the issues are, but it also helps you to understand how to mitigate those issues and how to progress on those issues. And if I may also come back to remarks that were made in introduction, COVID is still somehow alive because it was so, I would say, invasive in all of our lives. But it did prove at that point in time really that where there were these strong relationships, that those who had those strong relationships came out faster and stronger out of the COVID crisis here. So there is a value in building those relationships. Then let me come back to collaboration, because that's equally important. So you need to collaborate here, so you need to partner here, and you need to build that trust to be able to share those data, because it's not about finding each other on the issues that are not good. I think it's finding each other on how to improve and embark on that journey. So what we do within Amphori, very practical, is that we help our members with understand and map the supply chain. We help our members with then identifying and, their risk, assessing the risk, verifying the risk, but also if there is issues, how to overcome those issues, how to mitigate, how to mediate, and ultimately those data also inform reporting moving forward. The beauty of Amphori also is that through this collaboration that we do avoid duplication, and I think that's something that resonates, I think, well with business. You don't want to duplicate your efforts. You want to really impact of, you really want to use the resources where they make the most impact. So just give an example, as part of our understanding your risk and verifying those risks, we do monitorings, around 40 to 45,000 audits a year, but it also means that there is more than 120,000 audits a year we don't do because we share the results, because in average, one supplier is linked to at least 4 members. So I think there is also beauty in collaboration here, but also beauty in the collaboration in solving issues, because some issues are not unique to one supplier. We find them everywhere, and if you then work together also to find a way forward, I think that's just a good example about where collaboration adds value, including that within your relationship, including that also in your responsible purchasing practices, and for example, really align on your volumes, your expectation delivery, really align on, if you want to make changes and understand the impact there, and that's all relation to start with. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the power of collaboration within supply chain actors is a very powerful thought, and that it also, Shri Kansal, as we were speaking on the way up here, you had also mentioned that the government has launched schemes and parks for the textile industry, because it is still has a large number of MSME operators. So perhaps you could shed some light on how the government is encouraging collaboration and supporting such collectives.
Well, I did refer to some of these initiatives when I was speaking. I think one of the important things that we are doing is getting the textile clusters to speak to each other. I mentioned about the need for collaboration and peer learning. 80% of the output in the textile sector is from clusters, and within these clusters, 70 to 80% of the entities are MSMEs. I spoke about how Tirupur recycles 96% of its water and Surat has cut down 24% of its emissions. So by making these clusters speak to each other and arrive at standards which one cluster has set for itself, we hope that we will be able to build horizontal sustainability across the value chain. One of the themes in my address has been how supply chains need not just to be adaptive and resilient, but they need to be sustainable in the broadest term. And when you speak about sustainability, it's not just sustainability in the environmental sense, it's also in the social sense, it's also about worker safety, it's also about how you treat your employers, and it's also about the ability of the supply chain to withstand risks, whether they are risks of, as I said, known unknowns or unknown unknowns. So how do you, and our view is that one of the risk mitigating factors in building sustainable supply chains or resilient supply chains could be to build sustainability across clusters.
Excellent. Now we come to an industry that, has to power many of our clean business journeys. The wind industry, we have Colonel Bharat Sharma, who is the Executive Director from PowerCon Ventures, and I'm going to invite him to describe what PowerCon does and also shed some light on how clean the industry actually is and how he needs to think about sustainability in his field.
Thank you. I'm from PowerCon Ventures India Private Limited, the power group of companies. And we are into 360 degrees total solution providers for renewable energy resources, solar and wind. Our company is about 10 years old, and we definitely believe in the fact that responsible sourcing and proactive supplier engagement is very, very important. That is to enhance supply chain resilience against all odds, including geopolitical as well as environmental disruptions. Responsible sourcing is something which we pay a lot of attention on, and this would involve diversifying risks. We have multiple vendors, different geographical locations, because if we've got to take care of the disruptions that I just talked about, we have to diversify these people. We also we ensure that we have products which are certified, type certification products are used, Even products adhere to them, and they are included in the ALMM. We anticipate and meet regulatory demands. Like, for example, BRSR, though it is not applicable right across the board, not applicable to us either, but we are definitely into it. We also know that CBAM is coming from 2026. So keeping that in account, we are making sure that our vendors are educated on it. They are told what precautions they are required to take for decarbonization so that they remain viable. Well, just to give you an idea, about 70% of the components of wind turbines and slightly more than that of the solar panels are manufactured in our country. Just about 30% or lesser than that are what are imported. Basically the controllers, panels, these are the ones which are imported. And castings, of course, we do not have the capabilities of having huge castings, and these are the ones which are imported. Right. We identify vulnerabilities and avoid disruptions. We reroute if necessary while importing or moving them within the country. We are very, very cautious about reputation and trust, both stakeholders and customer confidence. If disruptions expose unethical practices, we can be very sure that it will be very difficult for us to rebuild our reputation. Well, what are we doing actually in details about all this is that we are proactive in ensuring ESG compliances and make sure that our vendors are also totally into it. We get into proactive supplier engagement. Our selection criteria is very strict. We carry out audits. We communicate with them about the policies as well as the code of conduct. We train our vendors and suppliers. Awareness plus insistence on extended producer's responsibility, EPR. We insist on that. And this includes recycling and reuse and disposal of various components and material. Examples: battery supplies, solar cells, and panel suppliers. We also have innovation partnerships with certain companies, like there is one Center for Engineering Excellence. Now, they recycle the panels and all which get defective. You see, in the electronic industry, the obsolescence takes place within 5 to 7 years. And if any components on any panel goes bad, it has to be replaced. Now, wasting out a panel would be very expensive and disposal would be a problem. We recycle them through CII. CII actually carries out a total analysis of what the problem is. They design around and fix the available components. Because you see, what happens is, even if you buy a washing machine and after 5 years, if you want to have some components, probably the manufacturer will not be able to provide those components to you. So you've got to design around and see that whatever is available with you, that is integrated with the new components which are coming into the market, and it should be able to function in a proper manner, and we are doing it on a regular basis. We also have a tie-up with Bax Energy, and in that we get data. In fact, we have a studio in our head office in Pune, that is asset management studio, where we are monitoring the health of the machines and also seeing as to what is going wrong so that we can take corrective actions on an immediate basis. So, to sum it up, I would say that proactive engagement with suppliers ensure resilient partners. Hence, resilient supply chain against all odds is absolutely necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. And you did introduce the topic of recycling, and we're privileged to have Dr. Abhinav Mathur, who is an advisor to Atero. Abhinav, if you could please explain what Atero does and the contribution it is making, and the role of sustainable supply chain in Atero's growth.
Sure. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think, I will take a different view than what has been taken till now. But before that, I would like to explain what exactly Atero is and what is the problem that we are trying to solve. Essentially, if you look at it, all progress today is happening at the back of a lot of materials, and these materials are going into every single device or equipment that is touching us. So if you look at smartphones, if you look at laptops, if you look at renewable energy things, if you look at electric vehicles and so on and so forth, everything requires some very critical materials, rare earths, which are in the conversation on a daily basis today because of the kind of geopolitical issues that are stemming around these. What we are trying to do is we are trying to ensure that whatever materials have been brought into the country, have been produced, we are creating technology which can then be used to ensure that these critical materials can be brought back into the highest value use case and ensure that these materials can be put back into manufacturing. So that's something that we are trying to do. In fact, when I said that I'll take a different sort of view than the rest of the panelists, because I believe that we are trying to solve the problem rather than sort of looking at our own supply chain. We are becoming the supply chain partner which can actually provide you very, very materials which are ethical, which have been traced properly, and which are seen as materials which are coming out of recycling and therefore can be reused by various manufacturers. So Atero has been on this journey, and we take in close to 1,44,000 tons of electronic waste and produce more than 22 metals, including rare earths, including precious metals, including critical materials, and we supply it back into the manufacturing sector. Our own supply chain is extremely complex. As you can understand, most of the material that is coming to us is coming after the end of life of that particular product in your households or in corporates or in maybe other usages. After the life of that particular product has finished, it largely goes to the informal sector. Some last mile collector will collect it from you, or maybe an organized player will collect it from you, and they will aggregate it and then maybe bring it back to us. What is important for us in this particular case, and specifically also from our customer standpoint, is that we assure them that whatever material that we are bringing out, whether it is copper, aluminium, whether it's gold, silver, platinum, whether it is neodymium, each of these materials are coming from a end-of-life use case so that they can claim credits for it when subsequently they use in their own products. Because globally what is happening in India also we'll start to see soon, that a lot of materials that are required to go into new products will need to be sourced from recycling supply chains. So we are trying to create a traceability right from the household to the metal that has been produced, so that the producers can be sort of confident that they are getting green metals sourced from recycled output of end-of-life products. So that's something that we are trying to build. And in this, we ensure that we put ourselves to the highest standards when it comes to the traceability requirements. So we have done a LCA, life cycle analysis, for the work that we are putting in, a GHG emission analysis. End-to-end traceability has been put in place so that the customer is assured that it is coming from a recycling output. We also ensure that the environmental impact of the products that we produce, the metals that we produced, is extremely low, and we continue to work towards ensuring that the extraction efficiency of the materials, the number of metals that we take out, and the purity of these materials are of the highest standard. So today, for example, we are taking out 22 metals. A smartphone will typically have more than 60 elements of the periodic table used to produce it. We are taking out 22, which is the highest in the world. We have 45 patents to, we are the only company in the country actually to focus on R&D. And we have more than 47 patents actually at this point in time, and 200 more applied for, where we have basically some innovation that we have developed to extract more, to be able to be less environmentally impactful, in the sense negatively impacting the environment. So that's one thing that we do. Our extraction efficiency for nearly every metal is greater than 98%, and the purity at which we produce metals is up to 99.95%, which is the highest grade that you can possibly get. So these are the things that we are trying to do at our end. From a supply chain standpoint, we supply our metals to a lot of metal manufacturers, to luxury companies, specifically material like gold, silver, platinum, etc. go into the luxury industry. The materials that we build like cobalt, nickel, lithium, etc. they go into the battery supply chain. Some of the materials that we are doing in the rare earth space is going to be employed now to create rare earth magnets, which is one of the biggest challenges that the country faces. So we are creating this entire business to ensure that there is a greater Atmanirbharta, self-reliance in the country itself. There is little reliance, or rather, your dependence on these geopolitically concentrated supply chains is reduced. China literally makes more than 90-95% of the material that goes into some extremely strategic products that we require as a country. We are also working towards ensuring that it's a local supply chain, and once material comes to the country, it does not go out, we recycle and make it available for the manufacturing sector in India itself. With that, I'd like to hand it over back to you, and maybe if there are follow-up questions.
Sure. I know we're very close to time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask each of the panelists for one tip to the audience. Let's assume that everyone here is trying to execute a plan around responsible sourcing, and maybe I'm going to give it more context and say they are struggling with maybe working with MSME suppliers, maybe awareness levels are lower, and maybe there's a lot of informality. And I'm sure these are very common challenges across, and all of you have faced this. So one tip for someone who is struggling with this right now, and we can start with you and move up.
So again, I'll have to take a different view. So each one of you for us is a supplier. Each one of you has smartphones at your home. Each one of you have laptops at your home which you have not disposed of, because either you believe that you have some emotional attachment to this, there is data inside of it, there is you're not getting enough value. So what we have done as an initiative is we have started a sort of initiative called sellsmart.in, where each one of you could go, register yourselves, not even register, you can just say that I want to dispose of this laptop or this smartphone, and somebody from our organization will come and collect it from you and dispose, or rather recycle, first of all, extract maximum material out of it, and then dispose whatever remains in a very responsible manner in a government approved disposal facility. What happens with such an initiative is that the velocity at which materials which are stuck in your houses gets back into the supply chain, and it starts to be productive for the use in manufacturing and for the self-reliance of the country. Today, unknowingly, we are keeping these materials stuck in our houses, which could be put to productive use. Like I said, there are more than 60 elements of the periodic table inside of our smartphones, inside of our laptops, and if we are, as a nation, tuned to ensure that we dispose of quickly and responsibly, more than 30 to 40% of the country's requirements when it comes to critical materials, rare earths, can be fulfilled very easily by 2030. That's something that I would like to share, and I would like to say that each one of you are suppliers, and please look into your drawers and try to dispose these off as soon as you can, because it is going to be much more useful for the country otherwise.
Right. Well, I'm of the opinion that we have to, in fact, invest in R&D for recycling purposes. We are already deeply into it in our company. As I've just mentioned, we've got Center for Engineering Excellence. The main problems that we face in disposal are the blades, their material. The other composite components which are there, that material. And like Mr. Gadkari yesterday made a mention that these materials are now being used by mixing them into bitumen and all that to make roads. So we've got to find out as to how, where these particular items which are otherwise very difficult to be disposed are to be used. That is very important. And for that, R&D is required to be done. And like I've just mentioned, that we have an organization called CII, and they can actually take on the responsibility of designing around and extending the life of various assemblies, components, and various machines. So we have got to use our brains to extend the life of whatever we are using. Thank you.
All right, so the question is, what is the tip? My short answer, diversification, use of technology, and capacity building.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that every supply chain is as strong as its weakest link. So I think everyone should be included to start with, and that also includes MSMEs. For Amphori and our members, I think there's over 2,000 suppliers here in India, and two key things here. I think it's proportionality in legislation, that they can do it, but also proportionality in how we assess them. So for example, we have a small producers assessment that is really more easier for them to pass. On the other hand, and it's not about passing, it's about understanding where you are and then making progress. But they can only do that at the second tip if they understand what it's all about, and that is about capacity building. You also mentioned that. Without capacity building, we will not be able to progress, because you first need to understand what the expectations are to meet them. And we offer that capacity building, but we can't do it alone. We need to do it all together. Government has a role to play, workers' organizations have a role to play, industry associations have a role to play, business has a role to play. But it also starts with helping them really practically. So we have a supplier code of conduct. So an MSSE or an SME doesn't need to invent the code of conduct themselves. Just take it. It's there. It's proven. It's under. It will be assessed regularly to make sure that that it really passes, say, the highest standards possible worldwide. Thank you.
Yeah. So my view is that we should adopt technology. And there are quite some options to do that. Sometimes in order to solve a very complex problem, right, you have to break it into smaller pieces. Yeah. Many of the industries, organizations like you here in mining, in textiles, in agriculture, in chemicals, right, often face this complex and multi-tier value chains, right? So it's very important for you to know who are your tier 1, tier 2, tier N suppliers. But in order to achieve that final North Star, maybe you take baby step. At least get to know who are my tier 1 suppliers. Yeah? Try to get as much information as you need from them in terms of what is the origin of raw materials, ethical, non-ethical sources. Yeah? How can you make these partners in your supply chain get into a network concept with you as an organization, share each and every transaction that's happening with you in terms of material sourcing. Yeah, that would put a lot of context to this concept of a sustainable supply chain. And we as SAP are already into this business. We have some technology capabilities to offer to all of you whom you're interested. The name is Green Token. Yeah, so it's very important to have a kind of a token or a certificate. It's just like your passport, right, that you're carrying with you. So each material that is moving along the supply chain has a certificate or a token, yeah, that represents its identity as it moves along this complex supply chains until it reaches your destination, which is your company, right? So you have to get into the mindset of adopting some kind of technology, like this to achieve this vision. Yeah.
Much to my fabulous co-panelists, and yes, absolutely, the learning on our part is don't assume lack of awareness is lack of interest. When we first reached out to our suppliers, we sent out an invite, and more than 200 of them showed up for a training that we organized, and we were very, very pleasantly surprised. So I think we should not conflate those two. Thank you again to CII for this opportunity, and I'll hand over now.
Thank you to our moderator Anjali and to our speakers for making this a super interesting session. I kindly request that you step forward for a photograph, please. I also request the moderator, Ms. Anjali Ravikumar, to please hand over a token of gratitude to our speakers. First, Sri Rohit Kansal. To Ms. Linda Kromyong. Ms. Linda. To Colonel Dr. Bharat Sharma. To Mr. Shivramakrishnan Sri Kumar. And to Dr. Abhinav Mathur. I request Swati Pandey from CII-ITC Center of Excellence for Sustainable Development to please give the token of gratitude to our moderator, Anjali Ravikumar. Next in this hall, we have a session, Future of Trade, Decoding the Sustainability Puzzle. Parallelly, in Desire Hall, we have a